Are you someone who struggles to lose weight? Or maybe you've lost weight many times, or a few times, or a handful of times, and you ended up gaining it back. And you tried to understand nutrition and exercise and tried maybe different diets and things. And maybe you found some success, but it's never been sustainable. And you unfortunately have gained it back. And weight loss has been kind of a cloud or a problem in your life. Well, my name is Zev Cantor. I've lost 80 pounds. I've lost and regained 30 to 50 pounds for many years. I overcame binge eating disorder, and I am someone who was just like that for 20 years, if not a little longer. Weight has been a big problem in my life, and I've been constantly battling it, trying to find sustainable weight loss. So that is why I'm here on this podcast, to be a voice in hopes I can help somebody and just really talk to my younger self. But I always looked towards nutrition and exercise, or I most often look towards nutrition and exercise because common sense tells me if I'm trying to lose weight, nutrition and exercise is the answer. And unfortunately, that wasn't the answer. I became a certified personal trainer when I was 18. I became a certified holistic nutritionist in my younger 20s. I got a minor in exercise physiology. I studied the mind. I studied the body. I studied nutrition. I practiced multiple different diets. I got into fasting. I followed all the stuff. And I never found sustainable weight loss. And even though I might have found acute weight loss, maybe weight loss for 3 months or 6 months or 9 months or whatever, it never was sustainable. I always gained it back. And usually I gained it back in a worse fashion, end up even heavier. And I developed a binge eating disorder from it. And it was a lot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the real reason why you're gaining weight. And it might not be what you think, or maybe it is. But I put it into 3 buckets, and I call it the weight gain starter pack. So if you're within these 3 buckets, there's a chance you are struggling with weight, or maybe you cope with something else. But if you're on this podcast, I'm assuming you're coping with food, and highly palatable foods at that. So bucket number 1 is coping. So bucket number 1 is essentially you're lost maybe in life. Maybe you're sad. You might be feeling bored and lost. You might be feeling unhappy, or you're under constant stress. Maybe you don't like the job you're in. Maybe you're unhappy with your partner. You're unhappy with your body. Maybe you're unhappy with your success. And because you're feeling these stresses or this unhappiness or just feeling lost, maybe you're not doing work that's fulfilling you. You're coping. And you're coping with possibly highly palatable foods because that's what's fun. It's what's stimulated. It's what makes you feel good. You might even be coping with drugs. Maybe you're drinking alcohol, or you're smoking weed, or whatever. You might be over consuming on screen time. You get home from work, or you're tired, and what you find joy in is just watching TV, watching your shows, watching your movies. And you're possibly under consuming movement and oxygen. So you're not going out and taking walks. You're not going out and working out. You're not focusing on getting any breath work in, or grounding outside, or doing any of those healthy practices that you might have seen online, but you're more so just kind of coping with things that are not moving you in the direction of the life you want, and are further making you want to cope with food and TV and video games and so forth. So that's bucket number 1, and I can tell you I have been there so hard, feeling lost and sad and just coping. And it does not mean, by me making this bucket, before I go to bucket number 2, it does not mean that you need to freaking have the best job in the world and the best relationship in the world and never watch TV, and you need to feel high on life to not cope with foods and lose weight sustainably. It's not, you don't have to do that. Obviously, if you are working in a company, or starting your own company, or doing something that makes you feel fulfilled, and you have a mission that you're attached to, you're definitely going to feel much better. I can tell you, just from a life standpoint, that you're feeling good about the work you're doing. And you're definitely going to feel better if you have a good support system and you're happy with your relationships and, things of that nature. But those aren't requirements for you to have sustainable weight loss. However, how you cope with them needs to change. And that is one of the most important, not to be cliche or sound like a therapist or anything like that, but it is one of the most important buckets, is understanding that, like many people, you cope, and how you're coping is making you gain weight. And I'll go in on future podcasts, and obviously we're going to tear that apart on future podcasts and just talking about sustainable weight loss and how you deal with it. But that is one of the reasons why you're gaining weight. Big reason. Number 2 is your personality is sabotaging you. So bucket number 2 is just personality. So what do I mean when I say your personality sabotaging you? If you're gaining weight, there's a good chance you have an all or nothing personality. Meaning you might eat a pastry or have a bad meal or eat fast food or something and then eat a bunch more, and you might tell yourself, I'll just begin tomorrow, or I'll begin Monday, and I'll just have a great weekend and just let go. Or on January 1st next year, because I messed up, I'm just going to have fun on the holidays and then I'll do it. That's personality sabotage. You have an all or nothing personality, or at least somewhat of one. You might have an obsessive personality. When you do a diet, you got to go all in. You got to make sure you're perfect on that diet. And if you mess up a little bit, now I got to go crazy and let go because I messed up. You might have an addictive personality. You might have a black and white personality, and you might be zoning out from life, which again, you eat those foods, whatever, what do? It's not like you're probably going to host an event or have an awesome party, but, or have time with your family, but you might play video games or watch TV or sit on social media and just try to zone out from life while you're high on your foods. That's personality, is just you're zoning out. And last but not least is you might be blaming a lot of other things but yourself. So a lack of accountability, another personality sabotage, is you might be saying, I'm this way because of my childhood. Oh boy, I did that for many years. I'm this way because of my mother. I'm this way because of my father. I'm this way because of my circumstance. I'm this way because I don't have enough money. I'm this way because fill in the blank. You need to start telling yourself you're this way because of you. And as hard as that may be to hear, as you take accountability, even if you don't want to say, you can say it like this: you didn't put yourself in this position, but you're now responsible for yourself in this position. I heard that quote from someone. I forget who it was exactly, but it's such a good quote because it's true. If you struggle with being accountable, push yourself and start by being responsible. So you might not have put yourself in here, and that may be true, but you're here now, and it's your job to get yourself out. So you have to be responsible for the person you are right now and changing yourself. So again, bucket number 2, another big one. And this is hard because this is your personality, man, or woman. This is you struggling because you're always going so hard on something. You're being so all or nothing and so obsessive. And it's like everything's black and white for you. And maybe it's not. Maybe it's not that bad. But when you can get to the point where you can have a piece of cake or a cookie or some ice cream, or, not be perfect because you recognize it's an imperfect journey. You're not doing a perfect diet. And this is why when you're being super restrictive or controlling, it's not good, because when you break that restriction, because you eventually will, you're human, or you lose your control, because you eventually will, you're human, life is life, you spin out. And what you have to work on that, and what we'll work with, is just I'll talk through on other podcasts, is just not being so obsessive and all or nothing, and also not putting yourself in an obsessive or all or nothing diet or way of eating, I should say, because I don't even want to call it a diet, or a workout routine or anything. You have to be able to flow. You got to learn how to flow, and that's a personality thing. So that's bucket number 2. And bucket number 3 is extremes, and specifically like uncomfortable extremes. So you are somebody who might be kind of gearing towards extremes, such as in the past you may have diet hopped and found to do certain diets that are pretty extreme. When I say extreme, I mean like a carnivore diet where all you eat is like meat and dairy, or you're doing veganism where you don't touch meat or dairy or eggs or anything like that. Or you're not just going in a calorie deficit to lose weight, but you're dropping so many calories and under eating because you want to lose weight as fast as possible. Another extreme. And that, of course, is going to put you in a high state of craving. Or you're doing intermittent fasting and you're only eating in a very small window every day. another extreme. You're working out for hours every day. You're doing unsustainable over exercising. You're pushing your body to the break, and you feel so like you're losing all this weight and you're feeling accomplished, but you're probably going to burn out. So you're feeling out of control on something, like I said previously, like you might have eaten a cookie or you broke that diet or whatever. And because you're feeling out of control, the next extreme is to binge. You're about to go eat 5,000, 10,000, 3,000, whatever calories of highly palatable foods because you need to go to the extreme. You're feeling out of control. Or you're wanting to over control and analyze. You're like, oh, I binged all this food, or I ate all this food and I'm feeling horrible. I'm going to read this book and I'm going to make a spreadsheet, or I'm going to really analyze the body, how I'm feeling. And I need to analyze, the mind. What's really making me do this? I need to control something. Another extreme. Or again, just struggling. You're just struggling to flow and live healthily. So those are my 3 buckets of the weight gain starter pack. And they're all things that I have dealt with and, have really impacted my life. And there are things that you may deal with again. You may feel lost or sad or depressed at some point. You may have like an obsession towards something. You may, go towards an extreme on something, and you may feel uncomfortable. It's life. It's life. You have to recognize, is like, not to be so hippie, but like you got to recognize that life is life. And it's so imperfect. It's the yin and yang. It's the balance. You're on one side, then you're on the other. You're constantly trying to find it. And you don't need to make it this front of mind, like, oh, I must find my balance. Like, because I know it's a very intangible concept and it's hard to wrap your head around. And there are seasons sometimes that are imbalanced seasons, and that's fine. But you got to try your best to not cope, to not let your personality sabotage you, and to not go to crazy extremes. Because the thing about that is it's just unsustainable aspects moving you towards weight gain. And the thing is these things could be true for other people that aren't using weight gain. And you may think that you're unfortunate because you struggle with weight gain, but there's people who, instead of weight gain, insert drug or insert X, aspect that could be hurting their life so bad. And if you're here, I think the reality is you're here because weight is your issue or your thing you're trying to overcome. And my hope is that I can provide some level of help or guidance, a voice out there that I never had when I was younger, and that it can hopefully be of assistance. But I wanted to put a flashlight on these things because I don't believe that you should be following the food right now. I don't believe that you should be following your exercise right now. Those are things I will talk about and that, are important. But I think it's more important that you really, if you need to re-listen to this, really just understand those 3 buckets. Because those are the real reasons. Those are the real things you got to work on. Your coping, your personality, and your extremes. When you stop the extremes, you stop the coping, or you transition how you handle the coping, and you work on your personality, your mind a little bit. And there's practices. We'll go into those. You will find that that's the steps to sustainable weight loss. Not just the nutrition, not just the exercise. Those are the steps. You can lose weight sustainably without exercising. You can lose weight sustainably without eating perfect. You don't have to eat all the perfect meals. You can lose weight sustainably in many ways. Many people have. Now, will it make it easier if you're eating whole foods? Most of the time, 100%. Will it make it easier if you're moving your body more often in a healthy, sustainable way? 100%. But it is not the main thing that's causing you to gain weight, because if it was, when you were on your diet where all you were eating was the healthiest of foods or the highest of proteins or all the vegetables or whatever diet you may have tried, and you were working out like a mad person, you would have done it. But the reality is that's not sustainable. And the things that are attacking your sustainability are within those 3 buckets. I hope this helps. Again, just kind of shining a light on the why of the weight gain. And I will see you guys in the next one.